Okay, 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 my dear kids, welcome back. So last time we made our ship is actually stuck, so we have to repair the ship to resume our journey. So uncle actually given an algorithm for you to for the repair of the ship, and actually in that algorithm we had step five-step algorithm was there. Very first one was uh, we have to study the working principles of our ship. Then we have to look at how these principles are implemented in our ship. Then looking at our log, looking at our log or annunciator fascia, we have to find out what the problem is. Then we have to go to the problem side. Then we can fix it. So an algorithm, you all know that it's a step by step to accomplish or fulfill a task. Are everybody comfortable with the screen? Am I audible, Satish? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, 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 okay. So next slide. Okay, so we will this day we will as in the next or previous sessions, we will make a quick review of our previous session. So very first, I defined what a heat engine is. It's a system which converts heat energy into mechanical energy, a system which converts heat energy into, let us say, mechanical motion or mechanical energy. Such a system is called a heat engine. And there are so many heat engines are available, and this head, under the head of heat engine comes a diesel engine. And nowadays, uh, all ships engines are actually four-stroke diesel engines. So Uncle was explaining the working principles of a four-stroke diesel engine. So this next slide, please.
This side.
So
Yeah.
okay, okay. So this was actually the four strokes Uncle described in the last session. We have got a cylinder piston assembly. This is the piston and this is the cylinder. So very fast we will be taking in the air, filtered air. That stroke is called intake stroke. Then this air will get compressed. So that is the compression stroke. Then third stroke, we will be injecting diesel into this compressed and heated air. So combustion will automatically take place, and it will the expanding air will push the piston downward. And in the fourth stroke, we will be opening up the exhaust valve and will be kicking out the combustion debris. Then, with this, one cycle of operation is completed. So four strokes are actually needed to complete the one cycle of operation. So we are calling this engine as a four-stroke diesel engine. We discussed up to this point. So let us proceed with our next things. Sadish, next. Then another thing I wanted to tell you is that actually in the last session, I noticed that I actually at the end, I noticed that I think it's Rishikesh or Avinash, someone like that, had made a question in the chat box. I did notice it at the last moment. So I wasn't able to answer that question. So when I gone through that question, I understand that I am not to answer that question right now. In the course of our session, we will be discussing that matter later at a later time after the assembly of our engine is completed, when uncle is explaining the operation and its faults and all those things, possible faults. Uncle will be explaining that. So I think Avinash or Rishikesh, please bear with me for the time being. Uncle will be explaining your doubt later. So one another thing is, if you have a doubt, certainly you ask. So for that, I am congratulating Avinash. Let me say Avinash, as well as he had mentioned his about his father in that doubt. So my earnest request to Avinash is that my convey my regards to your father as well. So anyway, if you are in doubt, ask.
It's
Otherwise,
Rishikesh, I think.
oh, okay. Whoever it may be. Yeah. So if you have a doubt in your mind in between, certainly ask it. Otherwise, the later session will be, most probably the later session will be lost by you, because the pop-up question will be in your mind and you won't be able to attend class. So when a question pops up in your mind, just ask me. After printing or typing it in the chat box, make a switch on your audio and uh, uh, ask uncle's attention, so that we can go to the question and answer that, and later we will move on. And regarding this sentence, actually uncle is an electrical engineer, and there are as an engineer is concerned, his language is drawings. So actually, when you grow up and become, I am sure someone among you will be going to be engineers. So in an electrical drawing, there are two types of drawings are there. One is logic drawing or control system drawing, and another one is power drawings. So in any logic or control drawings at side, you can see this sentence. This sentence will be there at one side. So while reading the drawing, if we are if any doubt is arised in our mind, we have to ask, and we have to clarify that. Clarify. So if any doubt pops up into your mind, don't hesitate to ask me. Okay, Sadish. Next. Sadish, next. Then this day I wanted to before going to our main course of discussion, I want to give you an idea on one of the very simple but beautiful but extremely powerful tool of science or engineer, that is superposition principle. You have to keep in mind at all the way, you have to keep in mind this superposition principle. This principle is actually devised for solving complex physical problems. It's a tool for analyzing or solving complex physical problems. Satish, next. So a superposition principle in literature, it actually says like this: for all linear systems, you can disregard the linear word right now. Let us say for all systems, the net response caused by two or more stimuli is the sum of the responses that would have been caused by each stimulus individually. This, in simple words, means that actually in an electrical system, there would be a network. Let us say a network portion will be there. You will be giving inputs. More and more inputs will be given to it, and we are interested in the output. So sometimes you may have more. If one input is there, only one input is there, the system is very simple. You get the output directly. So it's okay. When the input increases, say 2, 3, 4, or let us say 1,000. So then it turns out to be a very complex problem. Initially, or initially, it may feel like a very complex problem. But the superposition principle says that if you want the net response, you take one input at a time, take the output, note it down, then give the next input, collect the output, note it down. You repeat the process. Let us say 1,000 inputs are there. Repeat the process 1,000 times. So you will be getting 1,000 individual outputs, add it up. So that is the thing. When we apply 1,000 inputs at a time, you will get the response like that. So a complex problem is actually made very simple with the superposition principle. So you have to keep in mind this principle. Actually, Uncle is following this principle in this course. In this course, when I am discussing a diesel engine, I am taking part by part. Diesel engine an assembled diesel engine is in a sense it's a very little bit complex unit, but we are disassembling it very fast, and we are taking one each part at a time, and we are looking at its construction, its principles, its action, and everything. We are studying it very fast. One by one, we are studying all those things. Later on, we will assemble it and we will get actually the total response at a later time. So it's basically what I wanted to mention is, although it may look like a complex problem, every problem may look like very complex, but you have to look at it through the superposition principle concept. You have to disassemble the problem into small tasks, or let us like that, small parts. Then you have to analyze it and you have to come to the final result or conclusion. Now, Uncle will be asking you one question. Uh, the world, which one is the world's tallest building? Could somebody tell me the tallest building right now?
Burj Khalifa.
Correct. It is Burj Khalifa. So when we look at it initially, we will be amazed to, and we will be wondering how it's being made. But conceptually, when you look at it, it was built brick by brick, one brick at a time, one brick at a time. In a sense, conceptually, we are putting one brick at a time. Okay, next. Okay, okay. Like such, we built the tallest building. That is the story behind the tallest building in the world. So there is no complexity there. Uh, all the complex systems could be disassembled into simplest, let us say simplest systems. And these simple things can create complexity. So I think you got the point which Uncle wanted to explain. So there is nothing complex actually. You are not supposed to think that when you get a problem, that is not at all a complex. You have to look at it from the viewpoint of superposition principle. Okay, do you got me? Okay, okay. Let us move over to, then we will be moving over to our main course right now. So we know the working of a four-stroke diesel engine Uncle described in the previous session. So right now our next problem is, so in that case we are getting a to and fro motion, a cylinder piston assembly. While making the strokes, we are getting a to and fro or reciprocal movement. We are getting a reciprocal movement. But to drive our ship, we need a rotary motion. To drive your diesel car, we need a rotary motion. So there must have a system which could convert the to and fro motion into a rotary motion. Are you people familiar with such a system, such a mechanical system? Anyone familiar with such a system? A system which converts the to and fro motion into a rotary motion? Anyone? Anyone familiar with such a system? Vinayak, Rishikesh. Okay, Rishikesh. Okay. Okay, you are actually familiar with such a system. Such a system. All of you are familiar with such a system. And Rishikesh answered it correctly. Very good. Very good. You answered it correctly. Uh, next slide, Satish. So actually, a, a mechanical design which converts the reciprocal movement to rotary motion is called a crankshaft. A mechanical design called crankshaft converts the to and fro or reciprocal motion into a rotary motion. Satish, next. So this question I asked earlier, and Avinash answered me the right thing. Okay, Satish, the next question. It's, you are familiar with a crankshaft. A crankshaft is there in your bicycle. Okay, Satish, next. Okay, this is a bicycle, and right now you have to concentrate at its pedal, the cycle pedal. Okay, Sandesh, next. So actually this is cycle pedal, cycle pedal. Some portions are actually where you rest your leg. That is not here. But actually, uh, this is the construction of your cycle pedal. So here, actually, your cycle is a part of a heat engine. Actually, a running cycle is a part of heat engine, and the heat engine driving this crankshaft is actually you. Any biological system is a heat engine. So here, let us concentrate on how we are driving, how we are pedaling a cycle. So while pedaling a cycle, let us concentrate from your knee to the pedal. So your knee is actually making a to and fro motion pedal. You, if you critically look at it, your knee is making a to and fro motion and a little bit sideways movement as well. To and fro motion and a little bit sideways motion. That is what your knee is doing, a to and fro motion. And this crankshaft converts that into a rotary motion. So this is the very unit. Correct, Rishikesh, correct. Rishikesh is saying that knee for our leg is moving like the piston, or okay, let us say like that, piston of the heat engine. So our leg is connected to this crankshaft, and this crankshaft actually our leg is making a to and fro motion, and this crankshaft makes that to and fro motion to a rotary motion. So this is the very basic unit of a crankshaft. So in large heat engines, in a practical heat engine, there will be more and more cylinders will be there. So more and more pistons will be there. Actually, we can see multi-cylinder engines are the rule of our diesel engine world. So we have to actually, such small units will be connected together, and a large crankshaft will be made by joining together this piece of filament. Sadish, next. Okay. So this is a practical crankshaft which you can see in automobiles or like that. So here, this basic unit is actually like the pedal of your cycle. So to that, again, some other pedals are connected. Here, another pedal is connected. So joined together, not perfectly in a linear fashion. Pedals are somewhat tilted a little bit. Some not in a linear. They are connected not in a linear fashion for some other reasons. So actually, these are connected with the very basic unit of a crankshaft. They are joined together and made a practical crankshaft to which we can connect more and more cylinders. Satish. So, right, I think the definition or the concept of a crankshaft is okay with you. So a crankshaft is okay with you. Okay. So at this moment, I will be introducing another shaft as well, because we will be having a look at it at a later time. but I am introducing right now to so that you have an idea uh, about these things. So there are two types of shafts are there in a diesel engine. One is crankshaft, which converts the linear motion into a rotary motion. Another is camshaft. What camshaft do? It is a mechanical design to generate patterns from a rotary motion. Here we have a rotary motion is there, and you are supposed to generate some patterns of patterns of motion from that. So in that case, we will be using a camshaft. So its practical application is there in a diesel engine. So we will be looking at its practical application there. So for the time being, let us see how it looks like. Satish. So it is a camshaft. So it is a main shaft with some protruded portions, some protrusions here and there, some protrusions there. So while rotating this will be making some patterns. Right? This will be, let us say, this portion will be going and pushing some other portions for a time being. Then it will be releasing. This portion will be going, and while rotating, it will be meeting with some other portions of the heat engine, and it will be making, let us say, some uh, up and down motions. So for that, so in order to produce patterns of motion from a rotary motion, we will use crankshaft. So its practical applications we will see at a later time. Okay, Satish. Okay, right now we are concentrating on the crankshaft and the piston. So you have a piston which is making to and fro motion, and you have an element, a mechanical design which could convert the to and fro motion into a rotary motion. So we need a connection between these two things. So we use a part called connecting rod, connecting rod to join piston and the crankshaft. Okay, sir. So piston and crankshafts are joined together by this design like this. It's a connecting rod. It's a connecting rod. This top portion, which we call as small end. This one will be connected to the piston. This portion will be connected to piston. So it's actually a single piece of construction. Actually, it's a single piece of construction. Actually, we will connect it to piston like that. In the lower portion of piston, it's actually a little bit hollow portion is there. So we will insert this portion into that hollow portion, and through this hole, we will be putting a pin. A pin will be, a crank pin will be put into that. So it will get locked with the piston. So it is locked with the piston. Then this lower portion, lower end, we will call it this small end, then this the lower end. It is actually a two-piece assembly. A half portion is there. This half portion we can take it out. So we will put the upper portion at the crankshaft, that crankshaft web portion. That portion of crankshaft is called the web portion, which is protruded from its main body. That main body portions are called as journal, and the protruded portions are called web. So to the web portion, we will be connecting this thing by putting the upper portion and by connecting and screwing with nut and bolt, we will connect it to the crankshaft. So this, okay, this is another picture of it. So actually, this is an assembled portion of a piston. You have got the crankshaft here. Its main body portion, journal portion is there. Then web portion is there. Web portion, to the web portion, we are connecting the lower end of our connecting rod. Then, as uncle described earlier, the piston, actually the lower portion is a hollow part. You are inserting the upper end of the connecting rod to this piston, and you are inserting the pin here. You see a small hole is there. To this, you will be inserting a pin and a pin there, and then some locking arrangements you will be making at both ends. So it is there intact. So this is the assembled view of an engine. This is the heart of an engine. So let me ask, how many cylinders will it have for this particular engine? How many cylinders will this engine have? It's a simple question. How many cylinders? Rishikesh is answering as 3, but actually it is not 3. It's a very simple question. Okay, Jinsha is saying it as 6. And Jinsha answered it's correct. That is correct. Now Rishikesh got the point. It is 6. Actually, look at actually one piston means one cylinder, one piston, one cylinder. How many pistons are there here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 pistons are there. So 6 cylinders are there at the top. And this engine is a vertical engine. We call it as a vertical engine. So there are another type of engine we called as V-type engine. V-type engine. So let us say we need say 18 cylinders are there in an engine. Such an engine is there. 18 cylinders are there. So if we go for the vertical arrangement, the length of the engine will be prohibitively long, very long. It will be very long engine if we go for a vertical engine. So what we will do is we will go for a V configuration so that 2 cylinders will be side by side. It will be in the arm of the V. So 2 cylinders will be at the arms of V. By this configuration, we are actually compressing the length of that engine into half of a vertical configuration. Did you get me? Did you all get me? Else we can leave it right. So this is actually a vertical engine. So in your truck or in your car or in your bike, you can see such an arrangement and such a configuration. Some actually our normally our cars, diesel cars nowadays have depending upon its CC capacity, it will have 3 or 4 cylinders, 3 or 4 cylinders. And higher end cars are having 6 cylinders and all those things. A truck engine most probably will have six uh, 6 cylinders. So, like that. So this is basically a automobile automobile shaft piston assembly. And one end there is a wheel. It is numbered as 3. There is a wheel there, and we call it as timing wheel. We call it as timing wheel. We need it for the for making arrangements and all those. For the smooth running of the engine, we need a timing wheel. So this is the basic arrangement of a diesel engine. So you have the piston here, you have the crankshaft here. The pistons will be making to and fro motions. So the crankshaft will be rotating. Crankshaft will be rotating. So to this rotating crankshaft, you will be connecting. Let us say the turbine, the rotating turbine of your ship. A Kaplan turbine will be connected to the rotating camshaft. Actually, a ship is being propelled by a turbine called Kaplan turbine. So we will be connecting Kaplan turbine to this end of this free end of this camshaft. So that turbine will be rotating. So ship will be moving. Okay, Sadish. Next. So let us go for a bit of analysis right now. My question is, how many revolutions or rotations uh, did the crankshaft make in the completion of the 4 strokes? In a cylinder, in a one complete cycle of a operation, in one cycle of operation, 4 strokes will be made by your piston. So in that time, how much revolutions will be made by your crankshaft? Ritesh is saying that answered it as 24, but it's a very big number, Ritesh. Rishikesh is saying that 4 into 4 or like that. Okay, is there any other answer? So my clue is that you just concentrate on one cylinder. Just concentrate on one cylinder and its movement of piston. Concentrate on. Okay. Right now, Rishikesh got it. 2. She answered it correctly. 2. Let us look at it. Uncle will be very fast describing it. So very fast, your piston will be at the top. Okay. Then piston is slowly from the top dead center to it is moving downwards to bottom. So we'll do your crankshaft. It will move from top to bottom. The top point of your crankshaft will be driven to down. Let us say to the bottom. So actually that is half the revolution, half the revolution. So in the compression stroke, again, your piston is moving upwards. So it will be, the piston is connected to crankshaft. So crankshaft will be again making a half revolution from bottom. The bottom point will be driven to top point. So with this, two strokes are completed. Within this, one complete revolution is completed. One complete revolution of your crankshaft is complete. Again, the same thing will repeat. Two more strokes are there to complete our one cycle of operation. So again, one more revolution will be made by your crankshaft. So in a four-stroke diesel engine, in one complete revolution of one complete cycle of your operation, in completing four strokes, your camshaft will be run, will be rotated two times. So previous one, previous one. So this previous one. Okay. Now, okay. Next one. Next one. After the figure. Okay. Next one. Okay. Then uncle's question is, how many angles in degrees are inscribed in one complete cycle of operation of a four-stroke diesel engine? So in one cycle of operation of a diesel engine, crankshaft is making two revolutions. Could you convert it into degrees? Two revolutions. Convert two complete revolutions into degrees. Actually, to analyze a diesel engine, we need that degrees. Later on, we need that degree. Ritesh has answered. It's a very simple question. Very simple question. One complete revolution, a circle. So one complete circle means, okay, it's 360 degrees. One complete cycle is, one complete revolution means 360 degrees. So two complete revolutions means, Sadish, next slide. So actually, after in completing four strokes, your crankshaft is rotating two times. Means two circles are inscribed. So one circle is one circle inscribes 360 degrees. 360 degrees. A right angle, let us say a right angle. How many degrees are inscribed by a right angle? A right angle. How many degrees are inscribed by a right angle?
Sir, 90 degrees.
Correct. That is 90 degrees. In a circle, how many right angles are there in a circle?
4 right angles.
4 right angles are there. So 90 into 4, it is 360. One circle means 360 degrees. Here we have two circles. So two complete revolutions means 720 degrees. It's a very simple. I think you didn't get me, actually. You didn't get my question correctly. So one complete cycle of our heat engine operation is 720 degrees. Two complete revolutions. We need it at a later stage. So keep in mind this. Sadish, next. So there is a design problem for you. With this, I am stopping here. Today's session is, I am stopping today's session. So actually, uncle actually designed this diesel engine session as 2 day session, 2 days. I had actually allotted 2 days for completing this portion. But when I thought it again, I felt it good to move in a little bit with slower pace. So uncle made my pace a little bit slowly, so that you can correctly understand these basic concepts. Most probably these concepts are very much new to you. So uncle thought that it would be better. I'll be doing it in a very slow pace. So it may take, I feel it may take another 2 more sessions to complete out this diesel engine problem. So I think Sadesh could allot that much time for me. So I'll be requesting Sadesh for 2 more sessions. So as he, uh, it depends upon Sadesh to proceed with our further session. So before ending today's session, I have a question for you. I have a question for you. So, Satish, could you go back, Satish, to the presentation? The earlier one. My question is actually, it's a design problem. It's a design problem. So actually, we were discussing about a cylinder and a piston. So that engine can deliver an optimum power. Optimum power. In its operation, actually, in the very first stroke, we are sucking in air, that much air. Actually, we are we are sucking in the oxygen needed for the combustion of the fuel we will be injecting at the third stroke. So as far as the volume is concerned, a cylinder is having a particular volume. It can collect a particular volume of oxygen. So accordingly, we can pour in the fuel. There is no meaning in pouring more fuel into this air, which will exceed the quantity of oxygen which are being used for the combustion purpose. If no oxygen is there, the more fuel we are pouring in will turn as diesel itself, or it won't make a combustion, it won't deliver power. In the fourth stroke, in the exhaust stroke, everything will be kicked out. So my question is, we need more power. A diesel car needs a little bit power, and as far as the ship is concerned, it requires a much more power is needed by a ship. So how can we design such an engine which can deliver more and more power? So you just keep this in mind, or you can search in Google or like that, so that you can have an understanding, so that we can discuss that thing in the next session. Okay, Satish. Okay, Satish. Okay.